And he did an interview with a bot called Sophie. And Sophie is like a full humanoid robot. I don't know if you... And this was
it's like a woman's face with an open brain.
Yes, that's it. You know, and Sophie, this was some years ago. And Tony Robbins did an interview with Sophie, the bot. And that's for me when there was the trigger of like, this is something that we need to pay attention to. But AI is not about, this is what I want to make the misconception. It's not about job cutting. It's about creating efficiencies and speed so that we can leverage our time, expertise and resource in different ways.
Everyone believes what you just said, but the other side of the coin, if before I had a company and I needed 20 developers to work on my tech projects, maybe now I just need 5 of them and AI and they can do the work. So the big question is what happens to the other 15?
So it means that you redistribute roles, you don't necessarily get rid of them.
Is that what you're seeing with the clients that you're working?
No AI today will close a sale that is humanized. So if it's a high ticket cost, most people want to see, they want to feel, they buy from people. That's the psychology of buying.
How do you define AI in HR? Is it about automation? Is it decision making? Personalization, everything?
You can understand where your gaps and leaks are and what's working well. Well, here comes AI. Okay. I can amplify what you are already doing brilliantly and mimic it. And I can also plug some gaps and leaks with some tools that will turn your not so good processes and practice into optimized business flows.
Okay.
If you wanted to take the survey that you do every year and you've got 5 years of surveys, you could plug them into AI and ask what would be the trends that you've seen over these.
How accurate is ChatGPT in giving you those outputs?
There you go. So I was about to say, however...
How do you ensure that AI supports these HR professionals instead of creating an environment, a technological environment that would make them dispensable?
If you look at mental health statistics, we are probably the worst shape we've been in my lifetime. So we have work to do in HR, which is create the environment where people can do their best work.
How many years away are we from AI girlfriends and boyfriends as well?
Well, we've got them now. If you look in places like Korea and Asia, if you look at Japan, Korea, those parts of the world, they are phenomenally focused on technology and they're doing it quietly. They've already got this kind of girlfriend, boyfriend.
Through chat.
Bots, literally, chat bots.
Now, take the girlfriend name from there and call it Mary from HR. Tell you your problems and she advises you on things you should do, gives you motivational quote, pumps your energy. Isn't that a replacement for HR? Which AI trends do you think that will reshape HR in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, if possible?
For anybody that's listening thinking I am completely pro-AI, I am pro-AI for the things that are leaving space for the human to flourish. So I'm very curious about how do I stay human in this environment which is anything but human. Look at birthing statistics. They are low. We are not reproducing like we used to because we're not in relationships like we used to be. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Interesting or scary? Hello, Zoe. Nice to meet you. And thank you for accepting the challenge and being here on the show.
I love a challenge and thank you for welcoming me here. It's great to be here.
I'm super excited with this conversation and I need to confess to you why, because, many people have been in the show from HR professionals and somehow more or less the conversation touches AI for some reason. But when I saw your profile and I saw, okay, Zoe is really working, implementing AI or connecting AI with HR, I felt that I had to bring you into the show and for everyone that listens to this show to understand better exactly what does that mean and what you're exactly doing. So thank you for that in advance.
Thank you.
So in a bit of an introduction, on your social media, you present yourself as a global HR executive, a business psychologist, and a high-performance strategist. But currently, you have a company that it's called Empowered AI, the AI agency for HR. How did you get the intersection of AI HR? What's the story behind it?
You're asking a question that many have. So thanks so much for having me on your podcast. And I want to add as much value as I can. So my background is corporate HR, and it has been for a number of years. I'm a psychologist, and I like to think of myself as a strategist. So in time before, we've always been sort of, we being HR, I've always sort of thought of ourselves as a separate function. We're not. We should be highly strategic and commercial. So in my years of working for some amazing brands, I've had the fortune to work in technology. Technology has been the thing actually that's been the constant change. And I started talking about AI in about 2018, even before then maybe, as I was at Adidas and led a very big digital transformation. I was the HR director for Adidas, and the big task that I had was bringing to life digitalization from sort of moving on from omni-channel e-commerce and turning that into a digitalized world was really quite something new for Adidas. I hadn't done it before.
The initial conversation about AI, what was AI at the time?
Well, it wasn't really a thing. It was just like people talked about machine learning.
Machine learning.
But we have to remember that we didn't just have machine learning, because like Spotify, for example, used to predict trends about how, what music you like based on your algorithm, etc. And shopping patterns like Amazon, Facebook ads, all these, they were all built on some kind of intelligence that could track where you were, how you were shopping, all of these kind of things. So it's not really something, it wasn't used as AI. It was more wrapped in sort of the marketing side of things, the customer journey, the UX, the UI aspect. So we really didn't call it AI. It's only become an AI thing since ChatGPT became a thing. I mean, the same as like when we talked about meta worlds, some metaverse a few years ago. The metaverse is like 30, 40 years old. It's not new. So it's just become a bit trendy. But back then, when I say back then in 2018, it was more around how do we understand the customer so well that we can predict where they're going to be, how much they spend, based on all the patterns that we're seeing. And AI is largely pattern generation.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just been a cascade, an evolution of, and there was actually, I'm going to go off topic for just a second. I don't know if anyone knows Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins is a world-renowned coach.
Yep.
He does lots of big scale events. And he did an interview with a bot called Sophie. And Sophie is like a full humanized robot. I don't know if you, and this was some years.
It's like a woman's face with an open brain.
Yes, that's it. And Sophie, this was some years ago, and Tony Robbins did an interview with Sophie the bot, and that's for me when there was a trigger of like, this is something that we need to pay attention to. So with all that said, is just that I've been very curious and interested in always evolution and change. And as a psychologist, human behavior isn't changing. Human emotion is staying the same, but our world around us is heavily changing. And our stimulus is changing, and that's getting faster, which is driven by AI, technology, digitalization. And there'll be a new name in probably 5 years that we haven't discovered just yet. So we'll know that I'm sure in time, but it's getting faster and faster. So when I left my corporate job in 2020, because I was suffering a period of burnout, I kind of thought to myself, I've been doing these transformational projects, and I think I need to slow down because I need to kind of reflect. And I think when you work in a world that's very fast paced, the last thing you do is actually sit quietly and reflect on where you are, what you're achieving, where do you want to go? Are you still on point? We do that in business strategy, but not always for ourselves. So that was a moment for me to take a step away. And then I basically started doing my own thing, which was fractional HR. And about 18 months ago, I was like, I really feel like I need to pivot more and go deeper and harder into technology, because I think that this is a game changer. So yeah, that's kind of my intersection. And so for 18 months, I have been very in learning and continue to learn because it's a moving target. AI is moving daily. There are new releases in all sorts of platforms, new pop-ups, new functionality, new platforms. It's fast moving, and many people perhaps that even aren't on the journey won't appreciate the fastness or the speed at which this is accelerating. And in the last 24 hours, Amazon alone have even told and said that they've already made significant job cuts. They've already said that they're going to make job cuts. But AI is not about, this is what I want to make the misconception. It's not about job cutting. It's about creating efficiencies and speed so that we can leverage our time, expertise, and resource in different ways. At least that's the lens I come from.
Okay.
So anyway, I'll stop there because I know that we've got so much to talk about.
That's interesting, but probably that's the most polemic quote for AI, which is everyone believes what you just said, which is we are all now going to work more faster, quicker, more efficiently, right? But the other side of the coin, Zoe, is that if before I had a company and I needed 20 developers to work on my tech projects, maybe now I just need 5 of them and AI, and they can do the work. So the big question is what happens to the other 15? And beyond tech, it's maybe in all areas, all departments, etc. It's the same reality, right?
Yeah, and I think that what we have to really be mindful of is that we immediately sometimes go into what I call the weeds of a situation. We look at the kind of like microscopic effect of something, and I want us to zoom out more helicopter for the moment and kind of go, let's start with our why again, right? So let's start with the big, like, why are we doing what we're doing? Let's get really clear on what it is that we're trying to achieve. And if we reestablish these, we see that it's not always about job cuts. It's about serving a customer or a audience or a community with a product or a service. And how do we, knowing that consumer trends are changing, the demands are now very changeable and very diverse, how do we pivot quickly, being we, any organisation, pivot quickly to meet those demands? Well, when we're nimble and we've got less people, we can pivot quickly. We're a speedboat and not a cargo container. So in terms of, that transition, what we can do is then invest in other areas to create talent pipeline, for example. So where we might have to train somebody over years and years, we can actually have programs which bring people along the journey that need funding. Because the first thing that gets cut from a HR perspective, when there is trouble in paradise, the first thing I'm told as a HRD or top of the tree, slash your budget, Zoe. L&D is the first budget to go because it's a nice to have. And I'm like, it's not your nice to have. You're cutting off your pipeline. You're cutting off your upskilling.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you vulnerable and it makes you weaker than your competition. So that's where I would put more money into keeping your workforce relevant. So you can pivot people into different jobs and you can still continue to evolve your product and not stand still.
Okay.
So it means that you redistribute roles. You don't necessarily get rid of them.
Is that what you're seeing with the clients that you're working, so that they are doing the effort to repivot people to train them into new roles?
There's a mix of both, right? So there's a mix of both. So when I was at Adidas, there wasn't any hemorrhaging of anybody, okay? It was the opposite. There was more scale up. There was more, we need to go bigger. And so what does that really mean? Well, if anything has to breathe, it expands and it contracts. Like that is business in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. We hire, we release, we hire, we release, we restructure. That is the way of the corporate beast, if you like. So I think that we recognise that with any shift, there is implication. We either strip back and then we grow, or we grow and then we strip back. It's breathing entity, right? So if I think about Adidas was, understanding where the need was the most critical aspect. So we know that we need all the people that we've got today. And then we started to shrink because then there was a redistribution of where people needed to sit. So in terms of digital, let's just say a product owner that sits in digital is not necessarily a salesperson. But if the product has been created and we need to sell it and we no longer need that product owner, let's just say, right, for example, I would say, so we need more salespeople because sales is not going to be done through AI. No AI today will close a sale that is humanized. So if it's a high ticket cost, most people want to see, they want to feel, they buy from people. That's the psychology of buying. So it's really difficult to imagine a world where there is no human interaction and we're still purchasing at large. Maybe that would change in the future. Maybe that's a generation I sit in. But at the moment, we're not advanced to be able to do that. So we can pivot people into roles of more human connection, because trust me, in about 5 years, everything will be in person. Everybody will be, it's already happening, driving people back to the workplace. Let's get us all together. Now it's going to be more in-person events than ever. There's a pendulum. If you imagine a pendulum one side and you move it, it swings the polarity, the opposite. So we're going to see this shift. This is what we're doing now, and it will invariably shift jobs in there. So I've seen also some of my clients that have been able to strip back their operations. And that has allowed them and freed them to be able to breathe financially because of cost of living, because of all sorts of things. It's allowed them to enjoy their life a little bit more because they're not so stressed about money. So yeah, it depends where you are as a business owner as well. And for an in-house HR team, they may not be so sensitive to the bottom line. They're not looking at it critically. They should, as a HR leader, look at it as critically as a CFO, but maybe they're not. So they don't necessarily feel the ramifications of cost. However, they do feel the ramifications of upskilling, bringing to the team, their leadership teams, how do we move forward? How do we embrace? How do we adopt and embed new ways of working and being?
Now, doing the effort of going into HR specifically, how do you define AI in HR? Is it about automation? Is it decision-making, personalization, everything?
I'll give you a secret. There is no AI in HR.
Oh.
AI is AI. It's not specific to HR. It's not specific to any one place, thing, or community or audience. AI is for everyone and all. It doesn't exclude and it doesn't include. It just is. And it depends on your own perspective and your own mindset, whether you see this as included or excluded. I've experienced people saying, AI doesn't touch me. Oops, there's my hand gesture. Sorry about that. AI doesn't touch me. I don't learn. Yeah, of course, AI.
Recognize your
and I've had other people say, my livelihood depends on it. So it depends on the individual. But from my perspective, there is no AI in HR. So I'm going to take a step back again and say, right, let me understand, number one, what your intention is. Where do you want to, where are you now versus where you are today? Now, in the old-fashioned days, you might call them old-fashioned, we'd say, what's your current state versus your future target state? And where are you now in parallel to where you want to be? And there's the intersection then of the steps required between now state and future state. So my question is still the same. Where are you now and where do you want to be? Mm-hmm. The next thing I'd say is, where are your pain points? What are you struggling with? What's working brilliantly? Critically look at what you're doing today, how you're spending your time, your resources, your money, your energy, your effort, your opportunities. Where are you spending those today, and where you might have gaps or leaks in your operations today? This is nothing to do with AI. This is everything to do with your current business optimization.
Right.
When you can understand where your gaps and leaks are and what's working well, here comes AI. Okay. I can amplify what you are already doing brilliantly and mimic it. And I can also plug some gaps and leaks with some tools that will turn your not so good processes and practice into optimized business flows.
Okay.
So it can be as far and as wide as you want it to be, from email management to content creation. Everyone uses ChatGPT for a little bit of a thought partner. to full-fledged virtual C-suite teams running as agents in the background, doing every task you could imagine. And that requires deep pockets. So we call it digital twinning, cloning. You can have a full, far and wide workforce, which is completely and utterly virtual.
Okay.
So it depends on what type of company you are and how far you want to go and how you want to get there.
Can you give some examples of some of the most impactful ways that companies are using AI in HR right now, specifically in HR topics?
Yeah, sure. So if we look at just shout a discipline to me. Which discipline would you like me to kind of start with?
Engagement.
Engagement. Perfect. So you've got different tools. If we look at the traditional employee engagement, which is, I say traditional, some people might resist me on this. We're talking once or twice a year engagement survey.
Right.
I think that they're rubbish. I don't think that they are giving you a true picture. They're a snapshot in time. So I would always say pulse surveys. Let's look at something like Office Vibe or Water. Water's actually more advanced because they've got more AI predictive within the results. So, for example, you could put these different pulse surveys within your organization. And because of what AI does within it is we'll look at where there is a high score versus a low score and start to explore why these are high and low scores indicatively in the AI terminology, in the AI world. So you, the end user, aren't doing anything, or the administrator, it's built into the capability of the survey, the pulse survey. So what you're getting here is on point pulsed information that is also tracking where the energy, and I call energy, is where your scores are fluctuating. You can then dig into those and start to track and get predictive results on that, and then look at how you can move the needle. So that's one way of engaging. Old fashioned, if you wanted to take the survey that you do every year and you've got 5 years of surveys, you could plug them into AI and ask, what would be the trends that you've seen over these? What are you could analyze 2 or 3, 5, 10 pieces of data and then ask, what are the similarities? What are the differences? Create a curve. You could do so much with that data analysis, which AI is phenomenal at.
What you feed into ChatGPT and AI is like the raw data that you get from the surveys, or we're talking about like the scores in spreadsheets, or the text and the answers that the platform will recognize the sentiment, right? It's called a sentiment.
That's right. Absolutely. So you can use all your sentiments, all your data that you've got, all your different touch points, and not just even your engagement.
Okay.
You could put in your demographics, your any data that you've got on your workforce, the same way that you would marketing for your demographics of customers or clients. You can do it exactly the same way.
How accurate is ChatGPT in giving you those outputs?
There you go. So I was about to say, however, there's a conduit to that. So example would be if you didn't train AI. So no matter what platform you use, my choice is for ChatGPT is for normal, right? For me, that's my normal choice that I use as my LLM. And I've trained that AI to be my tone, my voice, know what it looks for. And that's been over a year. So let's just say that I've got highly customized, and I have an organization that builds agents. So I have them built in the background for me. I have a twin. So I am very advanced. So if you use my ChatGPT, my AI tools, they're going to be extremely accurate. But if you've just started using ChatGPT, you've not personalized, you don't have custom GPTs, you don't have any form of learning because it learns over time, it being AI, then your chances are it's going to be inaccurate.
Okay.
Unless you use something like Notebook LM, which is a Google product, and you create a domain. For example, Notebook LLM is a domain. You, me, whoever the expert is, would feed into this closed domain, the information, and then we use it as a chat GPT, and it only searches within the information we have provided within a private space. Then that is very accurate.
I'm just hearing you, and I'm in my head. It's like going deeper on everything you're and probably everyone that is listening is trying to say, okay, I think I understand. I'm going to explore that myself, and one day if I need help, maybe I'll reach Zoe. But for us to understand the full picture and the effort that we are talking about, so this year that you've been training this learning model, your learning model, so you created a closed model, which is not the normal ChatGPT, and you've been training it. And by training it, it means that you've been feeding data and you've been giving feedback from subgroups, right? So you've been saying that's correct, that's incorrect, that's correct.
Yes.
So, and that is built based on data that you get from different clients, or it's like for every client you train the model, because every client is a client, right? Their own environment. What's the best way to create something like that?
Well, when you work, so if you're a service provider and you work with AI every day and you've got multiple clients, my advice would be is to create custom GPTs that are based on your customer profile, so that you feed first of all, the GPT. Here's what I would do is I would feed all the information, bearing in mind that there are some sensitivities, what you're giving into AI for the broader access. So you need to be very mindful about your controls and settings. So if you've got the right controls and settings in place, then there's no problem. So what I do is I would load in everything I can find about the company. I use deep research for that, as well as whatever the company can give me, whatever is publicly available. I would create customer profiles, so what problems they're solving for what products all of that kind of stuff starts to generate a picture which is, this is the client, this is what they do, this is what they're trying to achieve, the end target state, this is how they do it, this is their product or service. So I need to do a foundational work, which can take a little bit of time. So when people say to me, oh, you can do it in a day, I'm not sure you can, but I mean, yeah, it depends how fast you work. But I have to train, and with any new client, I have to onboard my AI to give it some knowledge and work with it and correct it. And I always work with the client, actually. The client knows everything that I'm doing. I'm not secret squirrel about it, because I want them to verify. And it also gives them confidence, because they're now seeing me use AI. And they're like, okay, this is great. This is phenomenal. I now want to, so then I can teach them, because I can't do it for them. I can't build AI I can build solutions for them, but for them to get the best use out of them at their laptop or their desktop is for them to play. And so it helps to encourage. But yeah, going back to your original question, is there has to be a onboarding and a information exchange, no different than a new person. If you're bringing a new person in your team, you wouldn't just sit them at a laptop and say, get on with it, and this is your job, and you know everything from day one. You don't. So you need to onboard, and you need to do that literally, step by step. AI is not inferential. They don't make up, I mean, they can make up stuff that's based on patterns, but it's confined, it's structured, it needs instruction, literal instruction, to be really effective.
You challenged me to give you like topics, and you would give me examples of AI could help. I would go all the areas, but unfortunately we don't have time. But I'm sure that on recruitment side, on onboarding side, on performance management side, you would have interesting things to add.
Yes.
But maybe if someone is interested in exploring that, just a reminder that Zoe's contacts are on the video description. So and anyone interested in follow-up could reach out to you and see where you could add value on those areas.
And I have a diagnostics tool, right? So anybody, I would encourage anybody. So I try and create free tools so that people can help themselves, because it's only, your mindset has to be, in order to embrace AI, you have to have some curiosity and you have to have some desire. If you're closed off to it and you don't really have any thought about it, then it's a much harder thing to grasp. So what I do is I help people with a diagnostics tool. I help them to see that they can actually, without my help to begin with, is get them started, so they can see and visualize and imagine what the potential can be. And then they start to get curious about, what might happen here? And that's when I can come into the conversation, which is bespoke to them. It's not for everybody because their business is unique to them.
So some of the things that we've been discussing here help creating more efficiency, more value. Maybe at the same time, someone that is planning to go forward and introduce these new features of AI into HR, they may also feel like one day this can replace me, right? How do you ensure that AI supports these HR professionals instead of creating an environment, a technological environment that would make them dispensable?
So we have to acknowledge that HR's come from personnel, which is a very transactional, or was very renowned as very transactional work. And it's only in more recent years that there has been, HR boardroom seat at the table kind of stuff, need to be strategic. So there's been a journey that we must acknowledge has been a significant shift. I think that got wobbled in COVID massively. And because we also have to remember that HR people are also humans and they're also employees. They have feelings just like everyone else. And I think that we forget that. We think that they've got all the answers to everything. So as we come into this kind of, I call it the AI era, we're in it. I go back to the philosophy that humans have not changed. We're not transhuman. We are human. We still have thoughts, feelings, emotions, and that we've always had. And we're more stimulated than we've ever been. And if you look at mental health statistics, we are probably the worst shape we've been in my lifetime. So we have work to do in HR, which is create the environment where people can do their best work. So our responsibility may not be in Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets or running data and entries and yet we've got lots of data that's available to us. Now we need to switch our skills into really adding value, which is the human conversation, the human aspect of how we're feeling, because how we're feeling and our thoughts and our emotions are driving our actions and behavior. So we're probably going to see a massive surge towards helping people lead each other. So first of all, I'm a leader because I lead myself. So I have to be responsible for me, my thoughts, my feelings, my attitude, my reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And only when I've got that self-regulated can I lead another team. Because as a leader of a team, I need to manage all of these different personalities, all of these different wants, desires, and needs. So we need to have time to do that. It's a real full-time job looking after a huge team. So I see the role of a leader not doing anything operational, but everything to do with helping people, sitting with them, talking with them, helping them because they're going to need it.
How far away, Zoe, are we from having AI also taking care of the people side?
I don't think they can. They can't give you a cuddle. They can't give you a cuddle and feel. So if you ever walked into a room and you feel an energy, there's like if you've ever been to a live music concert, which most people listening, I hope, have been, and you walk into that arena and there's this kind of state of heightened adrenaline or emotional, whatever you might call it. You might say, "Oh, I've got hairs, and my hairs are standing on my arms, or the hair on my neck is standing up."
Yeah.
That's because of energy. And we don't get that we might get an electrical current from a device, but we're not getting the same soul-led feeling from a robot or AI.
Okay.
We won't.
Okay. I'm super skeptical, Zoe.
Are you? How do you fall in love with a person? How do you fall in love with them?
Since you bring that topic, how many years away are we from AI girlfriends and boyfriends as well?
Well, we've got them now. If you look in places like Korea and Asia, we are. I mean, we have to remember that in certain countries they are so advanced to us. They're just not talking about it in the same way. So if you look at Japan, Korea, those parts of the world, they are phenomenally focused on technology, and they're doing it quietly. They've already got this kind of girlfriend, boyfriend
through chat
bots, literally chat bots.
Now take the girlfriend name from there and call it Mary from HR, and you can chat with her. and tell you your problems, and she advises you on things you should do, gives you motivational quote, pumps your energy from a chat screen. Isn't that a replacement for HR?
It's a replacement. I'm not sure it's a full-term replacement. I think it's great when somebody starts to horrendously, if anyone's ever had a significant breakdown or they've been very, very, very upset, I'm not sure that knowing that you're talking to a robot is very soothing. When someone can kind of pause and give space and host a domain that's not shameful, that's not repeatable, that's not recorded, I think that's a very different level. So, and we might have it in the future. We might. I don't think we're near to that yet.
I don't know. I don't follow. I don't subscribe, so I don't know. But I'm not sure if it's science fiction or it's reality, or if is the reality just like 1 year away from us.
But remember, so before the self-driving cars came, so look at the Blade Runner and films like the Blade Runner, which are years and years old, and all these sci-fis that now we've got a remnant of that world today. This has existed long. These tools have existed, and intelligence has existed long before it came into our reality and awareness. So this is not new. It's just that there are some people that are very quiet with what they're developing and not talking about it because it hasn't been primed. But who knows? Because we're so open with it now, maybe we will have Mary from HR as a bot, as a comfort coach. I don't think there's a scale to where this ends, by the way.
But then on Blade Runner, the replicants were caught because on the task they could not express emotions, right? That's how you catch them.
Right? You can't express emotions. And that is how people buy from other people. That's how we fall in love. We have a vibe. We have love can mean very different things to different people. So I would say that most of us as humans are all consumers. We want to consume something. We all want to be significant. We all want to be relevant. We all want to achieve something in life. So a robot doesn't have that capacity to dream and think about what the future possibilities. They can only do it on the trends and predictions and patterns that are behind us. It's interesting, isn't it?
Interesting or scary?
So there's a book called Scary Smart by Mo Gawdat, and that's the chief. He's the ex-chief business strategist for Google. I'm just reading it now, and it's scary and he's smart. So it's kind of like one of those you could laugh and cry in the same sentence.
That's how scary it is. So before the end of the world, and for people that are listening and they would like to start implementing or improving or leveraging even more AI, what tools or platforms do you recommend besides ChatGPT to bring AI specifically into HR?
Absolutely. So I'm just going to ramble off things that I love and I know that work. And bearing in mind, so I want to make one caveat here. There are lots of tools out there that give you lifetime access for $300, for $500, for $60. And my question would be, what's lifetime? Because you might not be here in 3 to 6 months. So we're going to have a lot of pop-ups and we're going to have a lot of pop-aways, as I call them. So I believe in building AI like blockchain so that if something fails, you can pull it out and replace it and it's not going to break your full chain of command, right? So I'm very cautious about what I'm using. So if you are if you want to develop a website, for example, lovable.dev, flipping brilliant. You use ChatGPT to get a fantastic prompt. You put it into Lovable and voila, you've got a website. Or you could even use it for a landing page or a funnel or whatever it's beautiful and easy and very cost efficient. Example. If you're looking for CRM, I believe in Go High Level. Most people haven't heard of it, but it's brilliant because it's a CRM system that can do an awful lot of things outside a typical CRM. So it can do your email sequencing, as well as, so you don't need another tool, for example. I think that's brilliant. If you want email and you want just to do things that are controlling your email subscriptions, kit.com can also can create lead pages. And these are brilliant, really, really fast tools that are easy to learn, no code required. And they're great for business owners and creators. So if you're a coach or a recruiter and you've got your own business, these are brilliant. If you work in-house HR, your best friends are going to be note takers. Well, actually, note takers for everyone. I favour Read AI because I like the sentiment that it gives, and I love that it's so easy to pull into your AI model to do some analysis, create content, etc. I think Read's brilliant. I think Jasper AI is fantastic for content creation. I do for anybody. So whether you're a creator in-house, whatever you're doing, a newsletter, whatever it might be. I think that Perplexity is fantastic for analytics. I use it for that. I also think that we don't know what we're using in AI, but we're using AI. So, for example, if you're already using Google, you're already using AI. Google will go. It will be replaced by Gemini.
Mm-hmm. You mean Google search engine?
Yeah, they won't call it Google anymore. It's BAI. It's Gemini. So I can already see the nudges of like, oh, that's changed.
When we search for something, immediately now appears.
If you go and you literally open a page of a Google, if you go onto google.com, I think it is, at the very bottom, and I know that the viewers can't see, at the very bottom of that page, it also has tiny, tiny, tiny little a menu there, which is all about, it talks about AI, sustainability, and the planet. Tiny little letters. Go in there, it's a whole world. You can learn so much that it's when we're not even aware of what capability yet. But anyway, it's quite brilliant if anyone was interested to go in there. So there's so many things that are already being morphed already that you're using. And even if you use WhatsApp, there's already a version in there that you can use.
You can chat with the AI from WhatsApp, yeah.
And the thing is that you can also use speech, and so you can interact with a ChatGPT. I think this is phenomenal because I can have a little chat with ChatGPT and say, oh, I'm not feeling great today. Based on Tony Robbins, what would you recommend I do? What's his philosophy? And I get a voice that comes back and says, oh, I'm sorry to hear, Mary from HR. I'm really sorry to hear that. And I giggle because I find it's like Alexa, and it is like Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa's around a long time. So, but you can also do type to text, which is brilliant. That's a great tool. Again, Google have had that for a number of years, but it's just amplified. So these are some of the things off the top of my head that I think are brilliant, and very cost effective.
I've had conversation with ChatGPT as well. It sounds very exciting, but at the same time was very depressive, like speaking. I felt like I was speaking with AI, but it's an amazing technological achievement, right? Because he is like answering back to your questions. Amazing.
I think there's also massive, this is brilliant for some people with neurodiversity can find this very, very helpful. People that can't spell properly, I say properly with all respect, I'm not being derogatory here. So people that struggle with articulating themselves, vocally, reading, writing, AI is a phenomenal way to get inspired and to give confidence to people that are really, really unconfident in their ability around these areas.
So one of the things that I brought to ask you, and I'm not sure if there is something else to be said, but which AI trends do you think that will reshape HR in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, if possible?
Data analytics is going to revolutionize. I think that's that's where I see so much. Why there? Because it's an easy discussion with your CFO or your CEO, because you can prove and you can be very exact, and you can give solutions that are very targeted based on data analytics.
What kind are you mentioning?
So it could be, for example, let me talk about building a budget. So if I can look at the 2 last years of budget, I look at the headcount variation, I look at the performance curve, I see all of these data points, and I can then say, okay, I sit with the business. I'm on the board meeting. We talk about the strategy for the next 3, 6, 5, 10 years, whatever it might be. I come back to my data point and I say, right, our end game is here. Now tell me, based on what we've just been through, what I need to do next and what we need in order to meet this goal, this milestone, this goal. And then reverse engineer, bring that back to me in step-by-step actionable pieces that have a cost attached to them, that know what is required to enable them. I can be exact and pinpoint based on information that is known to me in an hour and not a day.
That's very interesting, because I think one of the problems in HR is the fact that HR is a bit subjective kind of topic, right? We talk about things that are very difficult to prove, right? It's motivation, it's engagement, it's satisfaction, etc. So when I started my career, these topics were very subjective, right? But nowadays, you can put numbers on all of these things, right? If you have numbers behind it, if you have like data trends, patterns, etc., then you can apply AI learning models, and you can have patterns, you can have tendencies, trends, etc. So, yeah, it's like, when I'm going to do a very abrupt comparison, but you have the offline marketing where it's like the displays out there, the outdoors, and then you have like assumptions of the results, and then you have online marketing where everything is measured. There are data for everything, right? So it's both marketing, but one of them is super accurate, right? It's to the click. And HR could become something like that.
Well, here's the spin. So for anybody that's listening thinking I am completely pro AI, I am pro AI for the things that are leaving space for the human to flourish. So no one can sit here and tell me, no analytics can tell me how I feel is right or wrong. Mm-hmm. I can do every psychological assessment and you can plug them in and it give you a lovely profile of me, but that will not define me, because my mind can change. I have the freedom of choice and I have emotions and feelings that may fluctuate minute to minute, hour to hour. And that is what it means to be human. Right. I believe that we still need what I call an internal navigation, our GPS, as I call it, which is called intuition. I don't believe that anybody should go against what their gut tells them. And I've used this in business most of my life. Now, people can say to me, but that's also wrong, Zoe. And I'm like, what is right or wrong is varied amongst all of us. But I have a moral compass. I can use analytics to complement that, to give me a sound bite and a check. And then if I look at the data points that I've got, data points being my data that I've got through however medium, right? Scientific data that's been created. Then there's my own data point, which is my feelings, how I feel. These together make a perfect blend to me. And that's how I've operated.
It's a big surprise that you still forced the fact that there is a space for gut feeling with all that AI.
And there's a reason for that. So for the past 4 years, I have been studying transpersonal psychology. Transpersonal is everything metaphysical and esoteric. It's not about the cognition. As a regular mainstream psychologist, you would talk about cognition. I'm not talking about cognition. I'm talking about everything that cognition can't explain. Everything from a vibrational aspect, why I can imagine the things that I do, because imagination is also subjective. Yet as children, we are highly imaginative. So we all have a essence, a spirit about us that is also very scientific, by the way. Energy, we can talk about energy and cosmo and galactic. There is all science. And to some people, that's very woo-woo, but it's becoming more and more and more provable. But that's uncomprehendable to some people. So I'm very curious about how do I stay human in this environment, which is anything but human, because we need to love, we need to recreate, right? So I'm going slightly off topic for a second, and this may make people very uncomfortable. Look at birthing statistics. they are low. We are not reproducing like we used to, because we're not in relationships like we used to be as in traditional heterosexual relationships. I am not saying that's right or wrong, because whatever your preference is exclusive and right for you. But if you look at our reproduction system and statistics, they are showing us that our reproduction is slowing down. So we must reproduce to stay human. Otherwise, we will all be robots. So I'm fighting to have the human aspect. I'm saying that we need to retain what makes us absolutely human. And there will be a tipping point. Some people call it living in the matrix. We're all in the matrix. I hate to tell you, but we're all in the matrix because we're controlled. We're controlled with our banking now. We're controlled with so much. But there's still what we can control is how we feel.
What's overrated in the current AI HR hype, and what's underrated in your opinion? Is there anything?
Oh, so what's completely fabricated is this myth that AI is going to do everything and all. I'm like, it's not going to solve all your problems. If your problems exist before AI, they're going to exist when you get AI. So they're not going to go away. You've got to go back to the basics of good business first. And then you can layer in what AI, and actually, let's take it a bit closer to home. If you've got kids or you've got a busy life, you can use AI to do a lot of scheduling. You can use AI to absolutely create brilliant admin in your home for your kids, for your meal planning, whatever you're doing. Fantastic. It's not just about work. But I think that and that's where we underestimate, because we think it's just a work thing. It's not, it's a life thing. And it's a way of thinking and being, and it's a vehicle to work in a different way. So I think that that's where it's, there's an under and an over. I think that one thing I'm seeing is that people are thinking that they would buy one thing and it would just plug and play and all work magnificently brilliant, which doesn't quite work that way. I think you need to be very conscious and intentional with how you use technology, and AI is a part of technology.
So we're close to the end, Zoe. And one of the things that I ask to every guest is if they could recommend me someone that I could invite to be the next guest in the show, someone that has an interesting profile or an interesting story or is doing something magnificent within HR area. Who do you think I can invite?
His name is Timothy. There's a company called Coupang. They use AI very well and have embedded it for some time. And I think he was a great person to connect with. Someone like Michelle Wilkinson at PVH. Michelle is a Chief Talent Officer at PVH. I used to work for her at Adidas. She's a trailblazer. I'd say that she's a great person to talk to, very transformative, and would have quite a lot of views on stuff. So, yeah, she would be a good person, I think, if she had the time.
Challenge accepted. Thank you very much. I enjoyed a lot of our conversation. And just as a reminder, if someone wants to follow up and get in contact with Zoe to deep dive on any of the things that we discussed or other topics, the links are in the video description.
Thank you so much. And I know this is quite technical for some people. It won't be for others. And when people listen to this, maybe in years to come, this will be sort of everyday norm. But thank you for inviting me on and giving me the space to talk about it, because I think it's a really important space. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Goodbye.